Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another biblical prescription for life. You know, last week we talked about Ozempic as a potential weight loss medication. We talked about the mechanisms, and we sort of concluded that maybe for some people it was good, the diabetics especially, the people that are morbidly obese especially, but for just weight loss alone, probably not. In combination with Weight Watchers, the verdict's still out, but we talked about some of the side effects, including expense. We talked about some of the negative things. Of course, when you come off of it, you gain the weight back. It's not a long-term fix. We talked about some of the other medications that's been out there in the past that just haven't worked out. We talked about the mechanism. Well, this week, we want to answer a specific question with an expert regarding weight loss. But before we do that, I want to start with a biblical prescription that talks about nutrition. And that's Genesis 1, verse 29. And God said, "See, I've given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, to you it shall be for food." So that gives us an idea of some of the food that God has given us at the very beginning. We talked about this. Every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree fruit that yields you. This is the original plan for food. So we have a question that's come in for a listener. We have Dr. Grieger to answer that. So let's go to that question right now.
Then this person, I've heard this a million times, losing weight did not happen on my paleo diet, okay? What do you consider the best diet? And I might consider this, we might talk about what you consider the best approach and not consider this word diet. And, we have a book that you can look at, but what are some things in about 10 minutes that we can help people with right now today?
Yeah, diets don't work by definition because going on a diet implies at some point you're going to go off a diet, right? Permanent weight loss requires permanent dietary change. Healthier habits just have to become a way of life, right? And if it's going to be lifelong, you want it to lead to a long life. But thankfully, the single best diet proven for weight loss just so happens to be the safest, cheapest way to eat for the longest, healthiest life. And that is a diet that is centered around whole plant foods.
That's great. Now, when a person, we have so many people that have extra weight, and it leads to these chronic diseases, diabetes, hypertension, joint problems. When you encourage someone to get started, how do you start them and how do we motivate them? There's books, it seems like all these fad plans, people flock to those. Well, how do we get them to start flocking to plant-based nutrition?
Yeah, well, it depends on the personality of each patient, kind of where they are. There's a number of different approaches. One, you can start, adding healthy foods to their diet. Say, look, I want you to have an apple before every meal. And, they're just so ready for you to, take away some of their favorite foods when instead I'm saying, no, eat more. I want you to eat some of these healthy foods. And the hope is that by the end of the day, you're going to be crowding out some of the less healthy options.
Now,
so I can start small. If I feel like the person is going to be easily overwhelmed, I'm going to start small like that. Get them drinking more water, get them start eating more healthy fruits and vegetables. And then kind of gradually build up from there. Others who I think are really ready to take the plunge, particularly those, that just got a diagnosis. For example, maybe they have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure or their cholesterol's up and they're facing, a lifetime of medication or worse. And so, when you sense that there's really the motivation there, I encourage people to really kind of do a deep dive and give it and just give it a kind of test it out like a free sample, right? So I tell people, give me 3 weeks, right?
There you go.
I mean, people can't wrap their heads around what? I'm not going to have another pepperoni pizza the rest of my life. No, I was like, no. Just for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, people could eat anything for 3 weeks. In fact, people could eat nothing for 3 weeks. And so it's like, okay, we're going to go all in on, eating real foods that grow out of the ground, natural foods from fields, not factories, right? These whole plant foods for 3 weeks. and then we're going to reassess. And so people are like, look, okay, I can kind of like, let's just give it a try. It's like a little, a little experiment. And there's some wonderful resources out there. There's an organization in D.C. called the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They have a free program called the 21-Day Kickstart.
Okay.
Program starts at the first of every month.
There you go.
Hundreds of thousands of people have done it. It's available in a bunch of different languages. And so you join as you start as a social media kind of group, and you share recipes, you get daily tips, and it just kind of helps you through that process. Answering questions for those, again, just for that 3-week period. So I think it's 21daykickstart.org. Anyone can do it. And then what people find, so I'm telling them, look, we're just going to try it for 3 weeks. But in the back of my mind, what you're hoping for and what we often see is people feel so much better. They have more energy. They have better digestion, less painful periods. On down the list, that all of a sudden they have that internal motivation to eat healthier. No longer is the doctor kind of wagging their finger in their face. All of a sudden their own body is like, wow, I just feel so much better on this diet. And then, of course, we can do labs before and after and show the dramatic changes that can happen within just a few weeks of healthy eating, to offer them additional motivation to stay with the path.
Yeah. Now, in your book, How Not to Diet, I'm sure it goes over this in a sequenced manner, right?
Yeah. I mean, with so much nutritional noise and nonsense these days, I just wanted there to finally be an evidence-based diet book.
Yeah.
And, to that end, cite literally thousands of studies, digging up every possible, tip, trick, tweak, technique proven to accelerate the loss of body fat, to give people every kind of possible advantage, and basically build the optimal weight loss solution from the ground up.
Good. Well, not too long ago on the nutritionfacts.org site, you did a series on fasting. How does fasting relate to weight losses, or is there anything that might help in intermittent fasting?
Yeah, so actually the largest chapter in How Not to Diet is on intermittent fasting, just because there's so many different types. There's alternate day fasting and 5-2 fasting, and the time restricted feeding and fasting mimicking diets. And I think the takeaway from all that is early time restricted feeding is really the best. So trying to restrict one's eating window to 12 hours or less. And then, but critically, shift that earlier in the day. So if you're going to skip any meal, you don't skip breakfast, you skip supper, and you really try to push more calories towards the beginning of the day. So, make the biggest meal lunch, for example, rather than supper. Because of our circadian rhythms, our body better handles foods earlier rather than later. So the exact same food eaten in the morning is less fattening than the exact same food, the exact same number of calories eaten in the evening. Causes less of a blood sugar spike. Shifting towards the morning, big breakfast, and trying to again restrict that 12-hour window. And then there's lots of other tips. We don't want people eating after 7 p.m. and on down the list.
Well, I want to, as we finish this segment here, I want to get back. I get a lot of this. I lost a lot of weight on the paleo diet. It really, I just love this. But I tell them as a cardiologist, it's not good. It's clogging up our blood vessels. It's damaging the endothelium. So how would you deal with someone that says, oh, I lost so much weight on the paleo, now I'm going to come off of it and stay well?
Well, I mean, the goal of weight loss is not to fit into a skinnier casket. Right? I mean, the goal of weight loss, right, is because we want to be healthier, and we need something that's sustainable. And so you want a diet that's going to support your health, not be a detriment to your health. And so certainly, look, just by cutting out processed foods, right? I mean, that's what the paleo folks get right. And they're also typically eating a lot of vegetables, which is great. So eat lots of vegetables, cut out processed foods, fantastic, losing weight. and would certainly encourage people to continue that. But you really want to stay away from, the saturated fat, trans fat, dietary cholesterol, things that increase your LDL cholesterol, a leading risk factor for the number one killer of men and women. We don't want to mortgage our health to lose weight.
Yeah, and everyone wishes there was just a pill that would do this, but it's not that simple.
The pharmaceutical industry wishes the same thing.
Yeah. Well, as we start the new year, a lot of people just need to hear about this and know where to start. And I think you gave them some excellent places to start. Excellent website. The PCRM.org site is excellent. Doesn't cost a lot of money. We got some books here, How Not to Diet. And I just want to motivate everyone. And thank you for joining us, Dr. Grieger. What you're doing is wonderful. I'm just glad you're approaching the big picture, especially when it comes to chronic disease.
Well, I want to thank Dr. Grieger for being with us today to answer that question. Thank you for your time. And his website, again, is nutritionfacts.org. So give this a thumbs up, share it with your friends and neighbors. I also hope to be back very, very soon with yet another biblical prescription for life.